Hey guys, you're welcome to my channel. Today thank you so much for stopping by. In this video we'll be cutting and sewing this stylish bustier dress that you can see on your screen. So I've gone ahead to rule out my points. The first point is distance from my shoulder to my chest line, which is 9 inches. The next point is the distance from my shoulder to my bust point, which is 11 inches. The next point is distance from my shoulder to my under bust point, which is 14 inches. The last point is the distance from my shoulder to my waist in front, which is 17.5 inches. So my waist at the front is 17.5 inches, while my waist at the back is 16 inches. So we're going to be taking the bust darts for this tutorial. So I'll label the lines: chest line, bust line, under bust line, and waistline. After doing that, I'm going to take half of my shoulder measurement, which is 8 inches. I'll indicate the 8 inches with a dot. I'll place my tape on the chest line and I'll mark the same 8 inches that I have on the shoulder line. After marking the 8 inches, I'll connect the 2 dots into a straight line. The next thing I'll do is to take the neckline measurement. So for the neck width, I'll be using 3.5 inches. So it depends on how wide you want it to be. On the shoulder line, I'm going to go down by 1 inch and I'll slant from there to meet the 3.5 inches for my shoulder slope. What I'll do now is to place my tape on this straight line on the armhole, and I'm going to divide what I have. So the straight line is 8 inches, half of 8 inches is 4 inches, so I will indicate the 4 inches with a dot. On that midpoint, I'm going to come inward by half an inch and I'll indicate the half an inch with a dot. On the chest line, I'm going to place my bust circumference divided by 4. I'll also indicate that with a dot. After doing that, I'm going to use my ruler to connect from the shoulder slope to the half an inch that I came in with, and from there to the dot on the chest line like this. The next thing I'll do now is to take half of my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 4 inches. So I'll take 4 inches on the bust line, on the under bust line, and on the waistline, and I'll connect the 3 dots into a straight line. To take in my dart, I'll be marking 0.75 inches on both sides of the straight line. If you are busty, you can do 1.5 inches on the side front and 1 inch on the center front. If you are not too busty, you can do 1 inch on both sides, but for me, I just took 0.75 inches on both sides. I'll place my tape on the bust line and I'll go down by 1 inch. I'll indicate the 1 inch with a dot. After doing that, I'll use the curved part of my ruler to connect from the 1 inch to meet the under bust like this. The next thing I'll do is to take my neck depth. I'll be taking 3 inches. This is how deep I want the neckline to be. If you want yours to be deeper, you can go down more. So after taking the 3 inches, I'll connect using my ruler to meet the neck width. Next thing I'll do is to place my tape on the remaining part of the shoulder, and I'm going to divide what I have there. So fold your tape into 2 and mark the middle. Make sure you're not extending the tape to your neck width, okay? After marking the middle, I'm going to still take my darts leg, which is 4 inches on the chest line, and I'm going to extend the dart leg all the way to the chest line like this. After doing that, I'll connect from the middle point of the shoulder to the chest line, and I'll outline the dart leg all the way down like this. So after doing that, I'll go ahead and start placing my measurements. I already have my bust circumference divided by 4 on the chest line. So on the waistline, I'll place my waist circumference divided by 4. And I'll replace the dart of 1.5 inches. After doing that, I'm going to connect using my ruler from the chest line down to the waistline like this. The next thing I'll do now is to take my side dart. So like I explained earlier, the difference between my front waist and my back waist is 1.5 inches. So on the bust line, I'm going to go down by 1.5 inches. I'll indicate the 1.5 inches with a dot. From that point, I'm going to slant to the dart leg, as you can see me doing. So after joining, the front is going to be the same length as the back. So the part of the dart that I'm shading is where we're going to be cutting out. The next thing I'll do is to determine where I want the yoke of the dress to start from. So for me, I'm going up by 2 inches from my chest line. So you're going to determine how deep you want it to be. You can go up by 1 inch, half an inch, or whatever you choose to do, or you can leave it at where it is, which is the actual chest line. So after marking the 2 inches, I went ahead to rule a straight line across and I cut that part out for the yoke. The next thing I did was to open up the dart area. I want to cover the dart, so you can cover the dart just like this, or you can cut open on the upper part as you can see me doing. So when you are cutting, you're not going to cut it out completely, okay? So after cutting it like this, you are going to use it to cover up the lines that we shaded. So you can cover it the way I did earlier, or you do this one, okay? So after covering it on the side, if you notice that any part of it is short, you are going to blend it into the waistline area. So after covering up the dart, I went ahead to use my masking tape to hold everything down, okay? So now that we have closed in our side dart, you are going to measure what you have on that middle point, the dart that we already open up. What I have there is about half an inch, so I'm going to replace the half an inch so I don't run short of fabric when I'm joining my fabric together. So after replacing the dart on the bust area, the next thing I'll do now is to start adding my joining allowance. So I'll be adding 1.5 inches as my stitching allowance. I've already replaced the waist dart, so what I'll do now is to add my stitching allowance of 1.5 inches. After doing that, I'm going to connect like this, and I'm going to extend the armhole area to meet the stitching allowance. So after doing that, I'm going to go ahead and cut, so please pay close attention so you know where to cut. So after cutting, guys, this is what we have for the front. So this is my center front and the other one is my side front. So we're going to work on the yoke now, okay? So for the yoke, I'm going to go ahead and cut out the armhole area, and I'll also cut out the neckline area. So I forgot to mention that when drafting this, you can fold your pattern paper into two so you can have a full yoke. Since my pattern paper was not folded into two before I started drafting, I'm going to bring in another pattern paper, okay? I'll be overlapping this with this to get a full yoke. So if your pattern paper is folded into two, you are going to skip this process. So on the end of this pattern paper, I'll be marking 1 inch all the way to the length, and I'm going to connect into a straight line. I'm marking this 1 inch because I want to overlap the yoke. So I'll be placing this other yoke on the new pattern paper from that 1 inch, and I'm going to trace out everything that I have on the yoke, okay? So trace out the neckline, the armhole area, and the shoulder area. So after doing that, I have 2 of them like this. So I'll be overlapping the first yoke on the second one. So after turning the pattern paper over, I realized that the 1 inch that I marked, I was supposed to mark it the other way around. So I'm going to remark it, okay, on this pattern paper on this side, and I'm going to extend. So I'll be using this one to cover the 1 inch. So I'll use my masking tape to hold it. So this is the reason I added the 1 inch, just to overlap it. So when I use my tape to hold it down, it's going to stay really well. So now we have a full yoke. So the next thing I'll do now is to draft out the symmetric neckline on the yoke. On this end of the yoke, I'm going to come in by 1 inch. So it depends on how wide you want the neckline to be, but I think 1 inch is enough. After doing that, I'll use the curved part of my ruler to connect a little bit to the set towards the center, and from there I'll use my straight ruler to connect it to that straight line that we have on the other end like this. So use your free hand to blend everything in nicely. On this other end, I'll also come out by 1 inch, and then I'll use the curved part of my ruler also to connect from there to meet that straight line, okay? I'm connecting this in form of a curve, is not a straight line. So I'm going to connect it all the way down like this. So this is how I want it. If you want yours to be straight, you can use your straight ruler to just connect it. So after doing that, now I'm going to go ahead and cut. So you'll be splitting the yoke open, then you'll be joining them back together if you want. So if you decide to join them together, just like I'm doing, use your tape to hold it down like this, okay? So after doing that, we are going to arrange our pieces together. So we have the yoke, the center front, and the side front. For the back, I've gone ahead to roll out my lines just like we did for the front. The distance from my shoulder to my chest line is 9 inches. Distance from my shoulder to my waist point is 11 inches. So for the back pattern, we're not going to take the under bust line, it's not needed. the waist is 16 inches. Remember, the waist for the front was 17.5 inches, and the difference between my front waist and my back waist is 1.5 inches. So the waist for the back is 16 inches. So this is what I have here. I also went ahead to add my zipper allowance. Okay, so your zipper allowance can be 1.5 inches, it can be 2 inches depending on how wide you want it to be. Mine is 1.5 inches. So next thing I'll do is to take half of my shoulder measurement, just like I did for the front. We are repeating everything we did for the front. I'll indicate that with a dot. On that dot, I'm going to go down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope. For my neck width, remember I used 3 inches. You can use 3.5 inches. You can use 3 inches, you can use 3.5 inches. Indicate that with a dot, and then you're going to slant from that dot to the 1 inch shoulder slope like this. After doing that, you're going to take your shoulder measurement also on the chest line. Indicate that with a dot and connect from the shoulder slope straight down to the dot that you have on the chest line like this. Next thing I'll do is to place my tape on the straight line, and I'll divide what I have into 2, which is 4 inches. I'll indicate the 4 inches with a dot. On the chest line, I'll place my bust circumference divided by 4. I'll also indicate that with a dot. So what I'll do now is to use the curved part of my ruler to connect from the center of that straight line to the dot that I have on the chest line. Next thing I'll do is to go up by 2 inches from the chest line. So I want the yoke of the back also to start from this point, exactly what I did for the front. So I went up by 2 inches and I just connected like this. So I'm taking my dart point, that is half of my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 4 inches. I marked the 4 inches on all the lines. What I'll do now is to connect all the way. I did not extend it to the chest line yet. Okay, on both sides I'll be marking half an inch on both sides of the straight line. You can do 0.75 inches. Okay, so I'm going to connect like this. Next thing I'll do now is to place my waist circumference divided by 4. I'll replace the 1 inch dart. Then I'll connect from the chest line all the way to the waistline. After doing that, I'll be adding my 1.5 inches stitching allowance. I'll extend the armhole to the 1.5 inches stitching allowance like this, and I'll also extend out the waistline. Okay, so to eliminate zipper bulge, I'm going to take out half an inch on the waistline and I'll connect it upward to the chest line like this. So the next thing I'll do now is to cut. The back is really simple. All you have to do is to take in the dart. Okay, so I'll cut like this and I'll cut out the yoke. Okay, I'll extend it into the zipper allowance and I'll cut out the yoke. Okay, so I'll also trim out the adjustment that I did on the zipper. So for the yoke, you're going to determine what type of neckline you want. For me, I want like a round V neckline. It's not a V neckline and it's not a round neckline, and I want it to be deep, so it's going to stop at that 2 inches that I came up with. But before I cut out the neckline out completely, I'm going to take out 1 inch on this, and remember I did that for the front. I came out by 1 inch, so I repeated the same thing, so the shoulder of the front and the back will match when I'm joining them together. So I went ahead to trim out the 1 inch away from the back yoke. Okay, so this is what I have for the back yoke. So the neckline depends on how you want it. The depth of the yoke also depends on what you want. So after cutting out the yoke, this is what I have. Next thing we'll do is to cut out the sleeves. So my fabric is folded into 4, so I'm cutting out both sleeves at the same time. The wideness of these sleeves is about 14 inches, while the length depends on how long you want it to be. Okay, mine is about 34 inches. So from this end I went down by 6 inches, right? I went down by 6 inches. I'm going to mark the 6 inches all the way, and I'm going to rule a straight line across. The next thing I'll do now is to slant from the closed edge, which is the side that is facing me, all the way to the other end like this. After slanting, I'm going to place my tape on that slant, and I'm going to fold my tape into 2 to get the midpoint. Okay, so once I get the midpoint, I'm going to mark the middle point. After doing that, I'll use my free hand to create like a D on top. Okay, so from this end I'll curve in form of a D. Once I get to that middle point, I'll curve from there in form of a C. So after connecting, I'm going to place my tape now on the D and C. As you can see, follow the line that you've already created, and you're going to mark out your round armhole plus your allowance. Your round armhole divided by 2 plus your allowance. Okay, make sure what you mark here is going to match the armhole area of what you have on your dress. So once I mark it with my 1.5 inches allowance, I'm going to slant from that point to give it that A shape. Okay, this is not a tight sleeve, it's really loose, so I'm just slanting in form of an A shape all the way to the end. So after doing that, I'm going to go ahead and cut, as you can see me doing. So make sure you confirm what you have on the armhole area and make sure it's going to fit the armhole area of the dress. So after cutting, notch the center of your sleeve. So this is what we have for the sleeves. So the next thing we are going to cut out is the skirt part of the dress. So you are going to measure your full dress length, and you're going to take out the half length that we've already drafted. So my fabric is folded into 4, that is for both the front and the back. And normally when drafting out a skirt, the center front is supposed to be on fold, but this time our center front is not going to be on fold because the front has a slit while the back has a zipper allowance. So what I did was to just mark 1.5 inches, okay, all the way on the center. Okay, so they are folded in equally, and I marked 1.5 inches for the zipper allowance and for the slit allowance. So what I did was to go down by 10 inches from the waistline. The 10 inches is the distance from the waist to the hip. So my 10 inches is my hip line, while the start of my fabric is the waistline. On the waistline, I placed my waist circumference divided by 4, and I added my allowance of 1.5 inches. On the hip line, I'll place my hip circumference divided by 4, and I'll add 1.5 inches for stitching allowance. I'll use the curved part of my ruler to connect from the waist to the hip like this. So I'm not adding that to this skirt, there is no need for that. Okay, so what I have on the hip line, I'm going to place the same thing. If you check the picture on the thumbnail, the down part of the dress is not too tight. Okay, it is loosed, so I'm placing exactly what I have on the hip line on the base of my skirt. So what I'll do now is to connect from the hip line straight to the base of the skirt. So after connecting now, I'll go ahead and cut. Okay, so guys, I'm done cutting. I'm going to remove my pins. So the part that is already open is going to be for the back. I've already splitted that part, okay, based on how the fabric was before I folded it. So this part that is going to be the front, for now it is on fold. I don't want the slit to be 1.5 inches wide, it is too much, so I'll be taking out half an inch from the 1.5 inches that I left for the slit. So I'm marking half an inch all the way, so the slit allowance is going to be just 1 inch. Okay, so after marking the half an inch all the way to the end of the skirt, I'm going to cut it out. Okay, so now the front part of the skirt is now opened, it is splitted into 2. So once I cut it out, this is what I have. So now you're going to figure out where you want your slit to start from, okay, before you sew. So from the base, me, I'm going up by about 24-25 inches. It depends on how open, measure yourself how open you want it to be. Okay, so you can do 27-28, it depends on you. I'll mark 25 inches, so I'll sew from the waistline down to this 25 inches. Okay, so that is how long my slit is going to be. So this video is getting too long. In my next tutorial, we'll be cutting and sewing this dress, so stay tuned, like this video. I'll see you in the next one.